Hi, everybody. My name is Justin Miller from Wowza Media Systems, and I'm here with Barry Owen. How are you doing, Barry?
Good. How you doing, Justin?
Well, I'm okay you as you can be with 2021 continuing on to be very much like 2020. But that brings us to our trends, which is what we're here to talk about. So, for everybody who's interested, we're going to be talking about the top six streaming predictions for 2021. So let's start out with number six. Number six being advancements in encoding. Will H.264 finally die?
Yeah. No, it won't. H.264 has been around a long time. It's certainly an older codec, but that goes both ways, right? Since it's been around a long time, it's built into tons and tons of hardware, right? And that hardware is not necessarily going away anytime soon. And in many cases, it works. It works well enough um, that it doesn't need to be replaced. Now, certainly there are a lot of advances in codec land over the last few years with things like HEVC, VP9, AV1, now VVC, and there's this alphabet soup of codecs right now, and I think it got a little more confusing, if nothing else, last year as some new codecs and some second, third, fourth generation codecs were introduced. So as many of you probably know, HEVC was the successor to 264 AVC, and it has fairly wide adoption, and that adoption will continue to grow. It's got hardware support. It offers you significant bitrate savings for given quality. But it's also one of the royalty constrained codecs, and the patent licensing is uncertain. And that opens the door for things like VP9 and AV1. And a few years ago, it looked like VP9 was going to be the thing. It's marketed as royalty free, kind of an open codec. Looks to be looks like it would have been widely deployed. And then AV1 came about, which is essentially VP10. It was the successor to VP9 to a certain extent, and got wide support by things like the Alliance for Open Media, and many companies threw their hats in that ring.
Right. And you're seeing more of adoption right now of AV1, you feel?
I think AV1 has a lot more muscle behind it currently than VP9 does. So as far as those two go, you know, there's a lot of companies that are in the Open Media Alliance, and Google itself has shifted most of its VP9 resources over to AV1. So that is my opinion. Yes, that AV1 will outstrip adoption for VP9, and a VP9 will flatten out.
Okay, well, that kind of brings me to number five. Telehealth continues rapid growth. So, my own experiences right now with telehealth is that doctor consultations are now all online, or at least the majority of them that I'm aware of are online.
Yeah.
What other things are you seeing in telehealth right now that have either started to, or now even more so, have been redirected towards online or video streaming?
I think there's a lot of stuff we've seen, as you mentioned, remote consultation and those kind of one-to-one doctor-patient visits where you can do an awful lot of stuff without having to go to the doctor like you did before. So those kind of real-time interactive uses. I think you're also seeing more remote patient monitoring, and where you take a video feed and often you mix it with a bunch of other telemetry and send that somewhere. And that could be within a hospital to a nurse's station, or it could be to a remote monitoring site where they're monitoring a whole bunch of stuff at once. Maybe various locations where they could react if they need to. And they apply AML algorithms to things like that to know if the patient is sleeping, are they awake, are they moving. So there's some interesting stuff there as well. And then I also think that as a consequence of people traveling less and things like that, where you'll start to see um, remote medical education and remote medical consultation. So, whereas before maybe you'd be able to fly in a specialist to do something for some particular reason. Maybe that guy's consulting over a video now, or maybe he's observing a procedure, a surgery over video and guiding the people at the in the operating theater to do other things. Um,
I
you
think
know,
right now of some of our clients in the past couple of years, especially ones that have worked in the maternity wards of hospitals, they were largely focused on, say, like neonatal care, where it was a special circumstance. But I feel like with COVID, it's all become a special circumstance.
well, it has, right? So, hey, if your loved one's in the hospital, you might not be allowed to go there, but you want to be able to interact with whoever that is. Well, you need to be able to do that over video, and maybe you could do that over FaceTime or something like that. But then you start to get into conflicts with the HIPAA rules that a hospital might have. So they may need you to do this on an approved system that's paying attention to security and encryption and things like that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there to create some interesting platforms to really um, make a lot of this stuff just simpler and more secure and safer to use.
Absolutely. And another area or another field, which brings us to number 4, remote personal health and online fitness growth. I have heard many people talk about who, and I'm not a guy that works out a lot, admittedly, but I know people who do, and they've complained quite a bit right now. They can't go to the gym, or
Yeah.
the gym's at 25% capacity, so they have to wait for people, and there's a line to get in, and so we're seeing people now focus even more so on being able to work out at home, but still have some sort of online connection. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Right. I mean, it's easier to work out if you have something to motivate you, whether that be a coach or a group of people. I mean, there's a reason why, spin classes are so popular, because you're in there with a bunch of people and you're pushing each other. So obviously folks like Peloton and, Beachbody, and now you'll see Tonal and a bunch of other ones, Mirror, they're doing a lot of this stuff and doing some real innovative things to bring that experience to your home. Obviously everybody's heard of Peloton. They started out, as basically spin classes, right? Where you could have this interaction. You have a bike that they could capture the telemetry from, and they can put it up on the screen. You can see everybody else in the class is doing. And then since they've expanded into other things, it's not just bikes anymore. They have all kinds of other stuff, all kinds of workouts. You have Apple Plus kind of coming on after and trying to be in typical Apple fashion, right? They may not come out first, but they try to come out best. I haven't used it, don't know, but I think it's for me, it's a matter of the availability of content. Personally, I'm happy with the on-demand style classes where I just have a coach. I like the Beachbody workouts where I can dial up somebody and follow the workout. I can definitely see where others, or if I'm doing something like a spin class or a bike ride, it's nice to have other people there. It's nice to have a little competition, a little motivation.
But I'm sure it's
So,
also nice to have, like as you were saying before, a fitness coach where they're actually watching and paying attention and checking your heart rate and listening to you and knowing, pushing you to do something.
that's where I think a lot of the innovation is too, is that data aspect, right? So yeah, you can stream video of a coach or of a class, and you can have some level of interactivity. It's pretty cool when you're capturing all the telemetry, whether it's your heart rate or your cadence of your bike, and be able to compare that with other people in the class, or have your coach see it and say, hey, you need to pick it up here, your heart rate's too low, things like that. So a lot of that stuff's really cool. And if you look at what some of the stuff Tonal has done, Tonal is more of an on-demand style workout. They do have some other capabilities, but I listened to a presentation by one of their tech guys, and they do some really cool stuff to adapt the workouts and adapt the videos you're seeing to what you're doing at the time, which I thought was kind of clever. So, you started to get into this, 5 years from now, maybe your coach is actually a virtually machine generated thing where he's it's, you're not watching a live stream per se, but you're watching a video of somebody who's coaching you along, very specific to what you're doing at the time, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, that brings me to number 3, the shift to live commerce and shoppable media. Now, I admit I don't know a lot of where streaming is going when it comes to live commerce. So please tell me.
This one's kind of interesting. So, there's always been, we've had customers in the past that have done live stream broadcasting of maybe an auction or something like that, and maybe it's user generated content where somebody's trying to sell a fancy handbag, and towards the end of the auction they fire up a live stream and show it around and show the handbag and do all that stuff. So, it excites the audience and generates more bids and things like that. But what you're also seeing now is this influencer led shopping where you're effectively seeing a live stream of someone else shop and layering on the e-commerce capabilities to buy the same things they're buying at the same time. This even this is even on Amazon now. It's relatively mainstream. Amazon has shopping influencers where you can go watch their live streams and see what they're into at that particular time, and maybe you want to buy something. I think some of the areas that are interesting here are, context aware shopping in a live stream where, for example, with either one of us now, it's like, maybe that refrigerator in the background of your picture there, maybe a little overlay would slide into the video and say, hey, you look like you like this fridge, hey, click here for more information. Or for other things, it's like, maybe you're watching one of the demos I saw was, and this is all, AI generated with some enhancements, but it was like, guy and a gal on a screen, guy's got a leather jacket on, gal's got a sweater on, things pop up saying, hey, purchase this Dustin jacket for $3.95 from somewhere. And then when he walks out of the scene, it goes away. This is pretty cool.
I think of the Truman Show when you talk about that.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I think some of the interesting stuff with kind of shoppable streaming and things like that is continuing to eliminate the friction of the actual purchase, right? So if I'm doing something on my Apple TV and something slides in, I don't want to have to click off to a website and enter a bunch of stuff in. I don't want to have them text me a link to go somewhere to buy something. I just want to be able to push buy. My Apple TV already has my Apple ID and my Apple account. Just charge my Apple account and send it out. So as it starts to get to things like that, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how effective it is to do some of this stuff. Because I honestly, if I'm watching an OTT stream of whatever, Hulu, pick one, I'd rather have that experience than have it interrupted with ads.
Well, to shift things, let's move to number 2, which is the future is bright for cloud gaming. Now, I'm personally not a big esports fan, but my kids are. They love to watch people play video games.
Oh yeah, it's
online.
crazy.
Yeah, it's either they watch them play, or they watch machinima made from it, or yeah, pretty much they watch like 5 or 6 people play a game and have a conversation about it for like an hour, which it boggles. I don't understand. It boggles my mind. I don't. But please tell me more about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and obviously Twitch has made a very successful business out of this, and with the advent of esports tournaments and things like that, there is a lot of interest for people watching other people play. And I think what some of the things you can do, like, okay, well, how do we make this, what's the next step? Where do we go from here? How does it get better? It's probably along the lines of making it easier for people to participate and stream their own games. I mean, Twitch has made it pretty easy. It can always get easier. I think things like being able to offload the games to the cloud so that the games themselves are more accessible without a ton of hardware to run them locally, things like Stadia and things like that. Um, I think will continue to gain traction and grow. Um, I don't think it will. Certainly, I don't think it's going away. I think it becomes at the high end. It certainly has become more professional. Um, at the low end, I wonder how much more participatory it can be.
I
Where
I have to interject there because the thing that makes me interested is, for example, with my Xbox, I can stream to Twitch, but I can't necessarily have such easy connections to my webcam or something else
right,
with, let's say, the Switch or another tool. I mean, if I'm at a desktop, it's a different story. But I'm wondering how many more gaming systems are going to catch on to this and say we really got to build in opportunities for people to play against each other and stream it, and for people to be able to see the players at the same time, like having these zoom options where you can wipe out the backgrounds
right.
in Xbox or Zoom. I mean, maybe there are. I don't. I guess I haven't really researched it, but I'd be very excited to see them.
Yeah, I think some of these guys who do game streaming have super complicated setups, right? And they're spending a lot of money to not only have their desktop that has a graphics card that's capable of a gazillion frames a second, but they also have the capability to encode and broadcast that at the same time. So I think if you can make that simpler and more straightforward, and in some cases just built in, like with your Xbox, it's a laser, right? That'll just continue to grow this. And then what we spoke about before is if you're doing if the games itself are effectively being cloud based and cloud rendered, well, you have offloaded most of the work off your machine already because it's being done on the cloud somewhere. So then your machine, a less capable machine can then start to broadcast audio and video. So you can do your commentary and you can do your participation in your chats a little easier at the same time.
Absolutely. Maybe in the future, TVs will get on board with this and have easier pass throughs where I can actually
Oh
see
yeah, I
what's
think
going
so.
on my Xbox, and then it sends it also out to something else instead of having to get a splitter. That would be a lot easier for me, at least. Well, this brings us to number one. User generated content remains on top. And as we've been talking about this for a while with gaming, I mean, that's true more and more, especially for, at least in my opinion, the younger ages. I'm seeing them watch more and more user generated content than anything else. They
Well,
don't even watch standard television shows or
no,
cartoons that's made for
right?
them. They would rather watch people yell and scream as they're playing some variant of Minecraft.
Or they're going to go watch TikTok and goofy little videos on TikTok, or they're going to, you know, now that Instagram has Reels, I think they call it. So everybody is going to these little quickly consumable video snippets that you can go and post and try to build a following on and potentially monetize and it's funny with everybody locked up at home. It's like, you know, TikTok went crazy because people were presumably bored and so, I'll do a little TikTok of this, I'll do a little TikTok of that. And there's some fun stuff on there for sure. I can't watch it for hours at a time, but my kids certainly can. So, you know, that whole notion of you get to choose your own adventure to a certain extent because there's such a variety of stuff out there where you don't have to watch something that was produced by someone in order to gain your attention. You can pick and choose what you want to see,
Again, I
and you
admit,
can participate.
yeah. Again, I admit I don't watch TikTok, but I my kids do, and apparently they like to imitate it. So they've been making fake movies of themselves fighting with each other. I don't know where that came from. I guess they must either seen it on TikTok or seen it on YouTube.
And what you'll also start to see is a lot more brand sponsored stuff like this, right? So the big brands of the world, whether they be standard people or luxury brands. They're looking for a way to communicate with that next generation of customer. And, things like this are what's going to grab them. So it's going to be interesting to see how that, those brands are going to start spending more and more of their marketing budget on this kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. Well, Barry, thank you for chatting with me about this. It's been a pleasure. For anyone who is interested in hearing more about live video streaming, please check us out at wowza.com.